Happy New Year, everyone. Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. It's the beginning of 2022, and I hope that you are all well. Welcome back, and if you are new, thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. The new year means a whole year of adventures ahead, and hopefully that also means some really good reading too. So for today, I hope that you will indulge me while I take a look back and do a countdown of the top 10 books that I read in 2021. So these are not books that were necessarily published in 2021. You may have already watched my video where I actually go through all 174 books that I read last year, and this top 10 comes from those books. I had a really good reading year. Besides reading a lot of books, 34 of those were 5-star reads, and that's almost 20%. So I am pretty happy with that. Coming up with the top 10 was a bit tricky, especially when it comes to putting them in some kind of order. But I did my best, and on another day, I may organize them a bit differently, but this is how it stands for now. Most of the books are fiction. And something that has never happened before has happened. One author managed to make the list twice. So let's get started. Coming in at number 10 is How the Penguins Saved Veronica by Hazel Pryor. This is just a delightful book that makes me smile every time I think about it. The main character, Veronica, is in her 80s. When she sees a documentary on TV about penguins. Veronica doesn't have any family, so she decides that she wants to leave all of her money to help save these penguins. But in order for them to get her money, she wants to visit Antarctica and see how everything is run. At the same time, Veronica connects with a grandson that she didn't know she had. She didn't know that he existed. Their meetings don't go smoothly, and we learn more about Veronica as her grandson Patrick learns about her. Meanwhile, Veronica, won't let anything stop her, and she goes to Antarctica, only to upset the scientists there. And what I loved about this book are the characters. Not only the main characters, Veronica and Patrick, but also the scientists and the woman who kind of helps Veronica out with some of her daily activities. I just loved that the story has some great themes. It's about secrets kept, loss, sacrifice, and it's also about relationships, hope, and love. And it just leaves you with a good feeling, and the good news is that there is a sequel out called Call of the Penguins. So I am looking forward to reading that when I get a chance and being reunited with these characters. At number 9 is the only nonfiction on the list. It's a memoir by Alan Cumming, Not My Father's Son. If you don't already know who Alan Cumming is, he is an actor. And he's also a singer and writer from Scotland, and you may know him from the TV series The Good Wife, and he's also very well known for his stage acting. In this memoir, Alan shares the very personal story about his relationship with his father. And what I loved most was how this story was told. It is heartbreaking, it's raw, honest, and even funny at times. The way Alan Cumming is able to weave the themes of mental illness, family dynamics, trauma, and forgiveness into this story is so well done. He is incredibly reflective, and I love how he brings his experience of learning about his ancestors into the story, making it a story really of healing and learning about himself. I am also happy to say that I have Alan Cumming's newest memoir waiting to be read. At number 8 is a historical fiction novel, Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. Now, if you don't already know, I read a lot of Margaret Atwood this past year, and I rated a few of her books 5 stars. And I chose to put this one in the top 10 because, in my opinion, it is unlike everything else that she's written. I want to say that this is Atwood's only true historical fiction novel. There could possibly be some argument against that, but the story takes place in the 1840s, and it's based on the real-life person of Grace Marks. And Grace Marks was convicted for her involvement of the murders of Thomas Kinnear, who was her employer at the time, and his housekeeper, Nancy Montgomery. There is so much mystery surrounding Grace Marks and this story, this case. I have likened it to Lizzie Borden, where no one seems to really know what happened. Where I think Atwood shines in this story is in how she has had to fill in so much and how she imagined all the holes of the story. I thought it was brilliant. And I also like that she tells a different story than what was commonly told. Atwood was influenced a great deal by Susanna Moodie, and yet she was able to kind of step away from Moodie's ideas and interpretations and create an entirely new perspective. And I just think that this story also suits Atwoodian, I don't know if that's a word, characters. This is the perfect type of story for the types of characters that she writes. This is an Atwood book that is definitely worth a read, and Atwood has a nonfiction book coming out in March, Burning Questions, I think is what it's called, which I will definitely be checking out this year. Next up at number 7, if you can believe it, is a romance. This is not a genre that I typically read, and one of my goals for 2021 was to read more romance. And I think I read probably around 10-ish, maybe. And this is one that made it into the top 10. Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is a contemporary romance. It's about 2 writers named January and Augustus. Both of them are experiencing writer's block. They make a deal that they will switch genres. So January will write literary fiction and Augustus will write romance. They spend the summer giving each other assignments that, they would do if they were writing their own book and researching their own book. So I ended up loving this book. It didn't have the fluff that I sometimes don't like in some romances. I like that it had substance, but it also had great banter between the characters. It was just a fun and enjoyable read that I have said when I've talked about it before, that it was one of those times, those rare times, when I read the right book at the right time. And that only added to the enjoyability of it. I have another Emily Henry book, People You Meet on Vacation. And in May, she has another book coming out called Book Lovers, which sounds very appropriate. So I'm really looking forward to reading both of those, hopefully this year. Number 6 is Shuggie Bain by Douglas Stewart. I read this novel in January, so almost a year ago, and it has definitely stayed with me. This was Stewart's debut novel and the Booker Prize winner in 2020. It was such an emotional read. This story follows Shuggie as a young boy in Scotland from the age of 5 to 15. And Shuggie is one of those characters, I think, that will always remain in my heart. From the start, you are put into the middle of Shuggie's life with his alcoholic mother that he believes he can help if he just, takes better care of her. Shuggie wants so badly to fit in, and all of his emotions are felt with such depth as he deals with abandonment and trying to understand this profound bond that he has with his mother. Shuggie Bain is a story of resilience and survival, and whenever I think about this novel, I feel the heaviness of it, and that's not a bad thing. It's just that the story deals with some very heavy topics, like addiction, violence, and abuse. It's a slow burn, and the writing is excellent. That's what made, some of the scenes difficult to read. because I felt like I was there. The well-developed characters and intensity of the story is why this book is in my top 10. We are now to the top 5, and really any of these could have potentially been number 1, but since I have to put them in some kind of order, I'm going to put at number 5 The Strangers by Katarina Vermette. This is Vermette's second novel, and it is considered a companion novel to her debut novel, The Break. The character of Phoenix is in both stories. This is a story about 3 generations of Métis women. Phoenix is incarcerated, and if you read or if you have read The Break, which was also just a fantastic book, you will know why she's incarcerated. She is also pregnant, and she gives birth to a baby that she will most likely never see again. Phoenix's sister, Cedar, has been in the foster care system for a long time, and early on in the story, she goes to live with her father, who she has been estranged from, and his wife. Phoenix and Cedar's mother, Elsie, hasn't been there for her children because of addiction. So these 3 women themselves have a story to share, but what makes this novel brilliant is the character of Margaret. This is Elsie's mother, and the 3rd generation. So it's through the 3 generations, and in Margaret's story in particular, that you can see the threads of intergenerational trauma. The story deals with heavy topics such as mental illness, systemic racism, domestic abuse, but it's the way that it makes intergenerational trauma evident through these characters that I was most impressed with. I had a real sense of who these women were. Phoenix strangers, Cedar strangers, Elsie strangers are in many ways strangers to one another, but they have such a great desire to remain connected against all odds. And Katarina Vermette's writing is beautiful, and she has a real gift of storytelling through showing rather than telling. As long as you are okay with a lot of cursing, then this novel is definitely worth your time. At number 4 is a beautiful story, Ordinary Grace by William Kent Kruger. I get all the feels when I think of this novel. I think when I first read this, I said it has a Stand By Me vibe. Now that might be because it's about young people and train tracks are involved, but I think it's more than that too. Frank Dunn is 13 years old in the summer of 1961, and a young boy in the small town where he lives in Minnesota has died. And some people believe that he was run over by a train. Others think that he may have been murdered. Frank's younger brother, Jake, he was my favorite character. He was just fantastic in this story. He's smart and endearing, and he really looks up to his older brother, and he just wants to do whatever Frank does. And I just absolutely loved their relationship. Their older sister is super talented, and she has the opportunity to go to Juilliard. So when another body is found, the town begins to unravel a little bit, and the boys are keeping a secret. And what I loved most about this story was how the characters and their relationships, and the fact that every character, like whether they were a member of the Drum family or a neighbor, it didn't matter who they were, they all had purpose, and you felt like you knew them. This story has themes of nature, death, war, religion, and racism. The writing is incredible. There are some beautiful lines. Even how the title of the novel is brought into the story is exquisite, and I cannot say enough about this amazing book. Coming in at number 3 is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. A novel that I was surprised at just how much I ended up loving. The protagonist, Evelyn Hugo, is, a Hollywood icon. She's an Elizabeth Taylor or Marilyn Monroe type character. She became famous in the 50s when she went to LA to become a star. And now it's 2017, and Evelyn has decided to have her biography written. So she chooses an unknown journalist named Monique to tell her story to. She shares her story about how, she used her ambition to find fame. She shares about the 7 men that she married and the legacy that she wants to leave behind. And it turns out that the world knows one side of Evelyn Hugo, but this novel tells the other side of the glamour and how the media and the public persona of Evelyn was really all wrong. So through her biography, Evelyn now wants to set the record straight. And in this story, we learn about the social and sexual politics, the secrets, the friendships, and the true love of Evelyn's life. So this story was written exceptionally well. It's another novel that I still think about. I loved the characters, and I thought, the couple of surprises along the way were very clever. Okay, I said at the beginning of the video that there was one author who made the list twice. Well, in the number 2 spot is another William Kent Kruger novel. He has become one of my favorite authors for sure. When I read This Tender Land in February, I predicted that it would be the first book of 2021 that would most likely make my top 10 of the year. This was another beautiful read. It was a compelling story that has elements of a contemporary Huck Finn. There's a raft and a river and some runaways. The story takes place in the summer of 1932 when Odie and his younger brother Albert are orphans and the only 2 white students at a residential school. The 2 boys decide that they're going to escape, and they decide they're going to take 2 of their friends, Mose and Emmy, with them. And this begins a summer of adventure, with some very close calls and great explorations and friendships. The novel is beautifully written with interesting characters, and I talked about this book all year to anyone who would listen. Now we are at number 1, and I think my reason for putting this book at number 1, besides the fact that I loved it, is that it was the most surprising book for me. At number 1 is the classic Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I probably don't have to say, too much about this story and what it's about, since I feel like everyone knows something about Pride and Prejudice. I had read Emma before, maybe a year or 2 ago, and I was not a fan. So when I started Pride and Prejudice as a group read with 2 subscribers, Christine and Karen, I didn't have high expectations. So to say that I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this story is an understatement. First, I was happy that I was able to follow along and I really understood it fairly easily. Second, it was very funny. I found myself laughing out loud several times. Third, there are some really great characters, and they aren't just the most obvious ones. I mean, Mr. Collins and even Mrs. Bennet, I just thought that they were fantastic. And the themes of class and social norms are handled so well. It's just a really great read, and the irony is not lost on me that in the year I attempted to read, more romances, my number 1 novel is one of the most cherished love stories in literature. So I thought that I would show you, this is one of my editions of Pride and Prejudice, and this is from the Folio Society. It's beautiful. It comes in, I'll show you, it comes in this slip case, which has this quote on it. It says, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife." And I will show you some of the pictures in this as well. There's some beautiful illustrations. Here's one more. So I actually think that I may read Pride and Prejudice again, or maybe listen to it. It also got me thinking that I might try Emma again, and that's really saying something. So I'm thinking that there must be some kind of magic or something in this book. So that is my top 10 of 2021. Please let me know if you have read any of these books on this list. Let me know what you thought of them. Do we have any favorites in common? Or please let me know what some of your favorite reads were of 2021. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I wish all of you a very happy new year, and I'm looking forward to sharing more reads and book adventures with you in 2022. Enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.